Toastmaster, Josh Daly. I'm actually from upstate New York, born in Long Island, but I'll make that correction. Before I started, Sean was telling me that the iceberg has the highest odds of winning, and then he gave that speech. So my speech is entitled Pivot. It's about making changes that you may not have been able to predict you need to make, but make the world a difference. So I was born on November 8, 1996 in Long Island, to a dying working class community. Long Island, back in the day when my grandparents were there, was a place where if you had a trade or a factory job, you could work hard and buy a house. The reality for me growing up my first few years in Long Island was that was impossible. My mom had a humble state salary. She worked in a mental hospital, and she was a single mother, and my grandmother would watch me. Things mostly worked out, but things weren't perfect. I often would see my mom stress out over bills, past due statements, and such. But she always found a way to make things work through pivoting. So for the next few years of my life, until age 6, things were great. But when my grandmother passed away, my mom soon learned that childcare was really expensive. I'd bounce around from family member to family member, depending on their schedule, what they had going on, the babysitting, and I saw very little of my mom. But the time I did spend with my mom, whether it be her picking me up after her night shift, we'd go to a gas station. Gas stations are actually one of my favorite places because they're open late, they're affordable, and my mom and I would have great conversations. So I learned about my first pivot when me and my mom were having one of these gas station talks. She let me know that we'd be moving to upstate New York, and I would be having to say goodbye to my friends, which was really hard for me. I didn't fully understand why, but my mom told me this is what we need to do so we can have a better life. What I didn't understand at that point was my mom was making a pivot. She saw the options she had, and rather than trucking along and waiting for life to get better, she decided to move somewhere where I could have a better life and education with what we had. So around age 6 or 7, we moved to upstate New York, which was great. I made a lot of friends. I participated in minor league or youth football. I made a lot of connections. I learned to play tennis. I excelled in middle school and such. But as I got older, I ended up not being such a great student. I struggled to focus, maybe a little ADHD. I never understood how to connect what I was learning in the classroom to what I wanted to make my life better. So around that age, I also got my first computer. And I learned through the internet that you can use a computer to make money. So I spent a lot of my pre-teen years and early teen years creating websites and the next great big idea. None of them really worked out, maybe a couple bucks here or there. I actually had my mom's social security number memorized because she had so much faith in me to set up these businesses. And in hindsight, maybe that wasn't the brightest thing, but I didn't lose money, so it's better than a lot of businesses can say now. Yeah. So once I hit high school, I struggled with fitting in and getting along with people, as many people do. So my grades began to suffer, and I never even thought of the prospects of going to college. I always was interested in business and politics, and I actually, initially, when the idea was brought up to me by my history teacher, I was going to go to school for politics. So that summer, which was my sophomore year in high school, I interned at a congressman's office. And it completely ruined my idea of what politics were. It was just a horrible job. I was opening envelopes all day, people complaining about taxes. So that really killed my motivation. So I was like, I don't know if I want to go to college. And there was a lot of advice that was really bad advice geared towards kids of, you don't need to go to college, you can make money doing it this way or that way. And there's truth. But in those videos I was watching, all those people all went to college. So if you're going to take advice from someone not to go to college, it should be someone who didn't go to college. But I had one pivotal conversation with my high school teacher who brought up the idea of going to school for business. He knew I had interest in websites and such. So I decided to go to community college, Adirondack Community College in upstate New York. I didn't want to be at home. Things weren't bad, but they weren't great. I didn't feel motivated, so I ended up staying on campus at the community college, and I didn't like it, so I had the opportunity to go to the Disney College program, which really changed things for me. I learned all about business, customer service, and it brought me to Orlando. And looking back, that was kind of a hint of what's to come. So to make a long story short, these experiences, leaving community college to go to Orlando, moving upstate, really kind of showed me that when things are tough, you can look for a new opportunity. Because when you have two bad choices and a lot of time, waiting is always the third possibility. So going back to those gas station conversations, one conversation I remember with my mom was, we're actually she's full Irish, I'm half Irish. So when she was in the 80s, she had the opportunity to go to Ireland with her father, who passed before I was born. But she decided not to go because the house she was staying at would have an outhouse. And they told her that with the connection they had with electricity, she couldn't plug in her blow dryer. And it was the 80s. So she didn't go. And my whole life I always heard, I wish I went to Ireland, I wish I went to Ireland. So with all the pivots I made that have led me to working in this analyst position Carmelo talked about, I actually was able to save up some money, and in May I'm going to be taking my mom to Ireland. We're going to be doing a 2-week vacation. And that was actually part of my negotiations for the new job. So all the pivoting I learned and all these challenges led me to a great solution, and I'm very happy that even though things may not go as planned, and they may beguile you, I know how to pivot.